On this Gun Talk Hunt, I'm talking to the law. I'm talking to Iowa Game Warden Jeremy King about what's happening to the deer populations in Iowa and a hunting story that you've got to hear. All right, welcome in, Gun Talk Hunt fans. I'm your host, KJ, and today we have our favorite game warden back. It's Mr. Jeremy King. But first, I do have to do some reads. I'm pretty sure that has to happen. But today we're gonna be talking a little bit about everything. We're gonna be talking about a recap of Mr. Jeremy King's hunting season. You know, we won't really want to pick up there. I had some woes that we were sharing on before the talk is started. But today's Gun Talk Hunt is brought to you by Timney Triggers, the world's finest triggers. Brownells, series about firearms since 1939. Smith & Wesson, Savage Arms, and Silencer Central, silence delivered. Without further ado, Mr. Jeremy King, Iowa Game Warden. Wait, hold on a second. You were Deer Officer of the Year in 2021?
No, I was 2009 and 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was the year. We all know what happened that year, so they had to give it to someone, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Jeremy, give us a little bit of your background in case folks didn't listen to the previous one.
Yeah, I grew up in Iowa, born and raised here. After college, I went to work for South Dakota Game Fish and Parks up in Mobridge, the north central part of South Dakota. Just like anybody that getting out of college, you're looking for any place to get you a job and start making money and paying off that debt. And then I was out there for about a year and got luckily hired to come back to Iowa as a game warden here. So when I applied in 2004, there was 595 applicants for 5 jobs, and the interview process is pretty rigorous. And after luckily passing all that stuff, they hired me in 2004. So I've been here about 18 years now.
Whew, man. And by far, probably one of I would say the top investigative game wardens out there. And because you got some stories, man. When I was out in Iowa hunting with you, you had been on a call from a muzzleloader round that had gone through a hospital.
That's right.
And he somehow, I don't know how you put it together, but you found the guy it belonged to.
I did. And you know, I would like to credit that I have some skill, but I think more than anything, it's just a little bit of luck. And you know, knowing people, and we can talk about that too. A big part of my job is building those relationships and getting to know people in the community and having those people with the eyes and the ears out there to help me do my job, because I can't do it by myself.
No, what was funny about it was he actually showed me the muzzleloader round, and he was like, "What is that?" And immediately got it. You know, it's that classic power belt round. So
yeah, you nailed
it. It was shocking though how you kind of figured out like the trajectory of it, where it came in, and it was just fascinating.
And, you know, I learned stuff on that case too. And here I, at that time, was on for 16 years, and still every single day I go to work, I learn stuff and different techniques used, and new data and stuff is out there for us. So if you aren't keeping up, you're falling behind.
That's true. And you guys, so I guess deer season is a little bit more different than like a turkey season or especially in the summer when there's no hunting seasons. It's got to be different for you. How do you prepare, and what would a typical day look like for an Iowa game warden in the middle of a deer season?
Well, you know, we really have 2 peak times for our jobs with deer season. One is a rut, which is archery only. And then we have what we refer to as our gun seasons. We have 2 gun seasons that run concurrent in the first and second week of December. Those are really our 2 biggest ones. And you know, typically during the gun seasons, I'm just covering as much ground as I can, because we usually have large groups of people. I do party drives and pushes. So I'm just covering the county and trying to get in contact with these people. Where bow season is more of I'm hunting individual, and I'm going to say hunting, but
Yes.
I'm hunting or pursuing an individual person that I know that I got a lead on, that I know is probably breaking a law, or I got a tip somewhere. So I'm actively after somebody.
Yeah.
So, and it might be 4 or 5, typically somebody's that I have to run a milk route to see if they're where they're supposed to be for me to catch them.
Man, how do those tips come in of the spurned girlfriends, or is that the large leader of like, hey, I know he shouldn't be out there?
Yeah. Some of my best informants are ex-wives or mad girlfriends, and they might still be girlfriends at the time or ex-girlfriends soon to be, but they are some great tips, and we get them everywhere. We have what we call tip turn-in poachers, where the public can call in or text in or fill out an online form, and anonymously it forwards it to us. Our phone numbers, which are cell phones, are published everywhere. It's easy for people to find. So I'll get text messages, phone calls. I've even had people FaceTime me and say, hey, look at this. This is what I'm looking at. Or, one of my better cases this year came at a gas station. I was working in a small 150 person town that has a small gas station. I grabbed something to drink and a package of crackers. And I was walking out. A guy grabs me and goes, hey, you're Jeremy King, right? And I said, yeah. He goes, I want to tell you about something. And we rolled into something that then eventually turns to be a giant, unique case for me. So,
dude, one, was it a Casey's that you pulled into, and did you get a breakfast pizza?
It was not a Casey's. However, that chances was about 90% you would have been accurate on that statement.
Dang it. So. Man, I thought I was pretty close. Well, are you at liberty to talk about some of the details and what the case was about? Because you always have a really good case at least once a year, it seems like.
Absolutely. As long as they're adjudicated, I can, as long as I'm not putting names out there, I can talk about the findings. So yeah, in this case, an individual stopped me, a young male in his late 20s, and said, hey, I just want to let you know, I got permission to hunt a piece of ground. And when I was out there looking for a place to put my tree stand, I found a tree stand with a trail camera and a salt block right next to the tree stand. And in Iowa, it's illegal to bait of any type, salt, mineral, grain, anything like that. So I saw him, and I appreciate it. And he told me who he thought it was, and he wasn't sure. And I said, I'll go check it out. So I swung down there a couple 5-6 miles away and went out to where he told me. Sure enough, there's a tree stand, no trail camera, but there's a big white salt block sitting right next to the tree stand.
Yeah.
So I put a marker on my map saying, hey, I got to swing by this place and check it out later. Well, I made that pass 3 or 4 days in a row, never found anybody there in the mornings, the evenings, and knew that maybe they'll show up, maybe they won't. Day 4 or 5, I swing by, and there's 2 vehicles parked in the field entrance. And I run both plates. Both plates come back they're both Iowa plates, and they come back to people, registered owners that do not have any deer licenses or tags of any kind. Now, I'm not saying that is always going to be the case, that somebody's out there breaking the law. They could borrow a vehicle, or a child might be using a parent's vehicle. Right. So not a common practice on me is I don't pull out and interfere with people when they're hunting. I make it a very, very common practice not to interrupt hunts. I'll wait till you get to the vehicle.
Well, I got to think that's got to be one of the more terrifying situations, because one, you don't want to walk out and an accident happen or anything like that. And I mean, you're one of the few, because I've been rolled up on into the field, and I'm just like, well, okay. I mean, I understand you guys are just doing your job too,
Yeah. And I'm, as a hunter and outdoorsman, I respect that. And like I said, I make it practice. I can't remember the last time I actually went to somebody in the field that I didn't see that was, if they're sitting in their truck getting warm, okay, I'll go and check you. But never would I dream of pulling out there. Well, in this case, I did pull out there because I had good information, recent information that somebody's out there probably breaking law. And I know that I can pull up to a crest of this cornfield and look my binoculars and see if somebody's in that tree stand. I wouldn't have to actually go out there and interfere.
Oh, okay.
So I pulled up top the hill, grabbed binoculars, looked, and sure enough, there's somebody sitting in the tree stand, and I can see it along the edge of the timber. So I know that there's salt block there. I drive out there.
Yeah.
And I get out there, and I have a younger man in the tree stand with his bow. I get out and I said, hey, game warden, obviously checking licenses. Can you crawl down? So he crawls down. I point at the white salt block. I said, man, what's that? He goes, my buddy put it there. I said, okay, where's your buddy? Because I got the second vehicle in that field entrance still.
Yeah.
And he goes, my buddy's not here. I go, well, whose other vehicle is that parked next to yours? And he said, I didn't have a clue there's another vehicle. When I got here, I was the only one. I go, okay, do you know where this other person is? And he says, I didn't see him walk in. Man, I got no idea where this other person is. So now, you got those spider senses going, okay, what do we got here? And so I had this guy come down and I go, okay, let me check your hunting and your habitat and your deer tag. He goes, yep. I don't have any of them. And at that point, I was a little disappointed. And like I say, he's in his mid-20s probably. And his name was not the name that the informant gave me.
Oh.
So I asked him where that person was. And he said, he put the salt block. That other guy put the salt block there. He's just hunting his buddy's stand. I go, well, your buddy got lucky. He wasn't in that stand today. It's your unlucky day. So I said, hop in the truck. I'll start writing up the stuff for you. And we'll work our way through this. And he hadn't killed anything yet that I could find. All of his arrows were clean. He had no blood on any part of his pants or nothing like that. So I believe him that he didn't kill anything. And I said, hey, while I'm writing up the tickets and stuff, I said, do you know where another stand is out here? And he goes, well, there's another stand on the other side about 300 yards away around this point. I go, let's pull over there and take a look at that stand, see who's up there. I didn't know if anybody was up there or not. He didn't do it. So we pull around over there, and right next to his tree stand, there's a big pop-up ground blind. And the windows are unzipped, and inside I can clearly see two people. So I pull up there, and I tell the guys sitting in my truck, hang out here. I'm going to go talk to these people, because I don't want to say I don't believe people, but I want to make sure that this isn't his buddy, and I'm not getting two stories they're going to, sync up on stories. I want the truth. So I walk up there, and there's a guy and a girl in the blind, both, again, I'm going to say in their mid-20s. And I asked, I introduced myself and said, hey, just doing a license check. I'm sorry. I normally wouldn't pull out here to check somebody. But I said, the vehicle back there, the license plate came back to somebody who didn't have a license. And the girl goes, well, that's my dad's truck. I'm borrowing it back. I'm a traveling nurse, and I'm borrowing it. And I'm going, I'm sorry. There's still time to hunt, but I'm sorry. So she hands me her hunting license, no habitat, but has two deer tags, an any sex tag and a doe tag.
Okay.
So I said, well, ma'am, you're missing part of your hunting license that's required. And she didn't know, according to her, and I believe her. Yeah. And then the guy sitting next to her, he's got rattle antlers on his lap. He's got a grunt tube around his neck. He's got doe and estrus scent in his pocket. And he's got his bow with a broadhead laying on his lap. And I said, well, can I see your stuff? And he hands me his hunting and his habitat non-resident. I go, where's your deer tags? He goes, I don't have a deer tag. I'm coyote hunting.
You gotta be kidding me.
No.
Obviously, that's how I call in all my coyotes is the grunt tube and rattling antlers. That's pretty standard, guys. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Primo should be marked, and they're missing out big time.
Yeah. So, please tell me you just looked at him and stared at him, because he should have just been straight with you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I said to him. I said, for my immediate response, as soon as you said he's coyote, and I said, all right, everybody out of the blind. We're done. At this point, I'm done. If you're just going to lie to me immediately, we're not getting anywhere.
Nope.
And so we went down that road, and this is where my interrogation side of me kicks in, because I'm not going to let somebody lie to me and think they got away with it.
Yeah.
So we're going to go down that road. And I said, hey, do you know that gentleman in my truck? Because I still have a guy sitting in my truck. My truck's idling, and I haven't given him his tickets yet. And they're looking like, we have no idea who he is. We saw his truck parked there. We went over here and popped up a blind. So they really had no clue who each other were.
Oh my God.
And still hunted this same small piece of property, which is kind of concerning.
Yeah.
So I walked back, and this younger guy, he was honest with me. I said, man, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you 2 tickets. You're 1 from being suspended. So if you break a fishing game law in the next 3 years, you're going to be suspended from hunting, fishing, and trapping in this state and 46 other states. So watch yourself. You're basically on probation. Yeah. And I said, he was very thankful. So I'm not taking your bow, not doing any of that stuff. Here's what you got to do, though. You're going to walk half mile back to your truck, because I got to deal with these people. So, and he was ideal.
I bet that was a relief that he was willing to take. Now I'm going to step in real quick. We're going to listen to a word from our sponsors, and we're going to get back to this story because I'm sure it just gets better. Timney Triggers. Now, they've been serious about the trigger game. And one tip I'm going to give you a tip for this Timney Triggers break. When you're installing your triggers, it's important to, go watch a video, okay? Go onto YouTube, type in the trigger that you're going to be installing, and just watch how it's installed, okay? Do that first, line out all the pieces in order, and it's going to help you stay more organized. The great thing about a video is you can pause and you can start and stop the recording to help you get through the process of installing. Timney triggers are by far one of the easiest triggers, and you don't have to be a gunsmith to actually install them. So it's very easy. Just take your time, get organized, and you can install those Timney triggers very easily. Visit timneytriggers.com to learn more. And Savage Arms. Oh, Savage. You guys are making more rifles now than I thought possible. No longer is it just the Model 110. You've got a whole series, and it's the Backcountry Extreme series. And it can be found at savagearms.com/backcountry. And that's kind of the new thing right now. Actually, it's been over the past 2 to 3 years, but more and more rifles are going light. There are 6 premium grade rifles purpose-built for specific applications. You've got the Timberline, the Ultralight, the High Country, the Ridge Warrior, the Bear Hunter, and the Impulse Big Game. That's the straight pull rifles that everybody is fawning over right now. But they are available in a variety of cartridges and configurations. Find out more at savagearms.com. And Brownells, they are in the optics game, and we've been talking about it for the past few weeks, and I can't overstate this. The new Match Precision Optics reticle is pretty much a donut. Yes, it is I think they're calling it the donut reticle, actually. And so what this donut is, it looks like a donut, the donut hole cut out in the middle, and so you can see through it. But it helps you line up the target better. And our eyeballs are round, right? They're not squared off. So a squared reticle is not as natural as a circle reticle when it comes to lining up your targets. But this is a 1:6x24 Match Precision optic. It's the MPO series from Brownells. So go give them a look. I know you won't be disappointed. We shot them out at SHOT Show and I loved it. But visit brownells.com for more. All right, we're back with Jeremy King, Iowa Game Warden, probably the nicest guy I've ever met in my life. So we're knee deep into this story, and he's just written up his first guy, and he's walking back half mile of truck, and now he's got 2 others to deal with. Where do you go from there?
Well, it goes to, now I want to know if you've killed anything. So I know you're not supposed to be here, and you're going to lie about that. So I go through his equipment, and their story was that she's a traveling nurse. She has been working in South Carolina. The gentleman with her is from South Carolina, and I find out that he is a guide down there. And this is the kicker that kind of took me. His father is a retired captain for game wardens in South Carolina.
Oh my gosh. I have a very similar story to kind of where this is leading to, but so his dad was a game warden.
Yes.
He should know better, like immediately.
That's my response to him too. I said, shame on you. You should know then that you call, because his argument is I'm going to shoot a coyote if it walks in, but I'm here to help my girlfriend get her first deer with a bow in Iowa. She shot one in South Carolina with me. I want her to get one in Iowa, so I'm going to help call and rattle one in, and then hopefully she can get this deer. And I said, so you're coyote hunting though? Yes. And he's got all Sitka gear, best of everything, best fancy Matthews bow, decked out. And I said, let me get this straight. You guys flew in on Friday. You fly out on Sunday evening. You packed all your camouflage gear, checked your bow, traveled all the way halfway across the country during the prime of rut, the first week in November, to maybe on a chance shoot a coyote?
No, you don't do that.
I don't get it. That doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, the stars don't align for that fellow. Well, here's the deal. I mean, realistically, if I'm in his spot, I'm not packing a bow. She has the bow. If I'm there for someone else, like my focus is on them. I don't carry a bow. I don't carry a rifle. Like it's for them. But
well, 100%. This is where I go down that road and I said, okay, man, I'm going to buy your story. Let's say you are coyote hunting, but you just told me that your priority is to get your girlfriend a deer. Yeah. So if a coyote comes in right now, would you shoot it? He goes, well, absolutely. I'd have shot it. I go, let me get this right. So you shoot a coyote. I've shot a truckload of them. It spins circles. It urinates all over. It bleeds all over. Does that help the deer come into your area? Like, is that helping your girlfriend get a deer? And he's like, well, probably not. And I go, man, the patch on my shoulder doesn't say dummy. Okay, it says game warden. So don't treat me like I'm a dummy.
Oh my gosh. They didn't know who they were dealing with is the problem. Because I mean, I've heard stories of Jeremy King's like interrogation tactics and they are spot on. Like I'd hate to be separated from a buddy or something. I mean, like you're all alone and against a professional. Well, and you hunt. I mean, you're one of the best hunters I've met also. So that also helps.
Well, I appreciate that, but I don't know about that. I've refined the tactic. You know, everybody in your life, you find a niche and something you do. And apparently interviewing people has really treated me well. And I have a knack for reading body language and people. And it works well. So I help train officers here to do better at that. And it's something I enjoy, but it's a chess match. And that's really what I've grew up learning to play chess. And this is the sort of same thing as I'm thinking 3 moves ahead every single time. So
how did it end up? Did you end up just kind of issuing them tickets and sending them on their way?
I did. I cited them and I was somewhat gentle on them, not completely. Then I had to go do an airplane flight immediately. I was a little bit late. I left there to do a night flight to look for people spotlighting, killing deer illegally, about an hour and a half away. So I called the officer scheduling that. I said, I'm going to be a little bit late, and I took off. I get about 30 minutes from my interaction with them, and my phone rings, and it's a South Carolina phone number.
Oh, gosh. He called his dad, didn't he?
He did. Very, very good.
How did I know that was coming?
So dad calls me and says, is there anything you can do? My son's not a lawbreaker. I said, well, actually today he was. Unfortunately, and I'm not saying your kid's a bad kid, but he broke the law. And we take this very seriously up here. He understood it. And then he called my captain and wanted to, in a sense, issue or I guess file a complaint against me. And my captain watched all my body camera footage and called him back and said, Officer King treated you more than fairly. He said, if I was out there, I would have taken the Sitka gear off his back as evidence. So it was nice I had backing from my captain.
Yeah.
So, and then it was done and over with. He paid his fines and we moved on, and that was that.
Well, one, he should know. I mean, the kid should know better, like how that looks and how you present yourself to game wardens matters. And you need to think these things through beforehand. And one, don't lie. Like he lied immediately.
100%. I reward honesty. It's so refreshing. Even if it's not the truth you want to hear, I can't tell you after 18 years of doing this, how refreshing honesty is. And it's not a long story. I can tell you this last summer, I ran into a husband and wife fishing, checked their licenses. I walked up to her. I said, hey, just check a license. You got it? She goes, I don't have a license. I go, how old are you? She goes, 32. She goes, I haven't bought a license in 16 years and I fished every year. I went, I'm sitting there. I literally had to take my jaw up off the ground. I said, okay, why not? She goes, well, I've never been checked. And her husband's sitting over there by her, bury his head in the mud.
Yeah.
And he has a license. He has everything. He's always bought it. And I said, why don't you buy a license? She goes, well, I told my husband, I'm not going to buy one till the day I get a ticket or checked. Not my wife. And I looked at her and I thought, that's pretty brutally honest. I respect that. Yeah. And I said, here's a warning, go buy a license. And she goes, you know what? I'll buy a license for every year from here on out because of the way you treated me. and you check.
That's awesome.
So,
Well, not to mention that, whether you do or don't, I buy a license every year. I buy a hunting license, fishing license for the states that I'm going to be in. You know why? Because those dollars and those cents from those licenses, they fund conservation and they fund great programs. Like, so it doesn't matter if you're always out there, just buy one. They're not that expensive for residents.
and I explain that to people. If I write you in Iowa, if you don't have a fishing license, I write you a $120 ticket. Every nickel of that goes to Governor Reynolds, our governor of our state. The DNR doesn't get a penny of it. You go buy a fishing license, and guess what? Every nickel goes to the DNR, and we make the resource better for you. So you pay $25 for a fishing license or $125 for a ticket. I mean, it's not a hard choice.
Yeah. We're gonna step in here real quick. We're gonna get a word from our sponsors, but I want you to start thinking a little bit about your season and how you did this year. And I want to hear a big deer story, because I'm tired of hearing stories about the one that got away from me. So we're gonna step in here from a word from our sponsors. Hodgdon Powder Company. Okay. Here is the load I just developed and I shot with my son this past weekend. So I had a bunch of Hornady brass left over from a 6.5 Creedmoor. So I've got a Nosler Accubon long range, and I put in the casing. I cleaned it all up, got the primer in, and I loaded it with 32 grains of Hodgdon Varget. And we all know the smell of Varget. We love it. I don't know why I'm sniffing gunpowders, but they all have a distinct smell to them. And Varget is just one of those that just kind of takes me back to my childhood, because, my grandfather, he reloaded some, and I always remember him having Varget on hand. But we got really good results out of this, and I was impressed with the accuracy and the consistency of it. Out of a 32 grain, I was pushing a 129 grain Spitzer, and I was getting, my average velocity was right around 2238, which I think I could push it a little bit more, but I'm easing into this reloading process, and honestly, going to HodgdonReloading.com has helped immensely in fine-tuning this craft that I've ventured on. I think I'm creating monster because my son loves reloading, and I'm having him just devour information off the HodgdonReloading.com website. So visit HodgdonReloading.com to learn how you can create more monsters. And Silencer Central. I have a big announcement to make, because I just received in the mail at my house my Banish 30. I've been waiting on this for a year, and now the new e-forms makes it a little less difficult, and the wait times are drastically different. Now we are looking at about 90 days or so, give or take. They're not firm on those days, but it's roughly around 90 days that you can put in your e-forms, and Silencer Central makes it very easy. All your fingerprints are done at home. Your picture is done off your iPhone or your Android, whatever you're using, but easily upload it. You're going to have to go in and set up a PIN number through the ATF. You'll use that throughout the life. Silencer Central makes it easy. They do everything. They manage your trust for the life of the trust. So make sure you give them a look. Go visit silencercentral.com to find out how you can get your silencer delivered to your house. All right, we're back with the Jeremy King, Iowa Game Warden. And I had mentioned it before, and I firmly believe he is one of the best hunters I know. And he will not say that. He will say he gets lucky every time, and I have to call BS on it, because I've been to his house, I've seen his wall, and you do not get that lucky that many times. So tell me a big deer story.
I tell you what, I don't have a lot of deer stories from this year, and we can talk about Iowa deer numbers at some point if you want. That's part of the factor to it.
Yeah. And I did want to ask you about, how are the numbers looking this year, and what, guys should learn from this year going into next year, because I know a lot of draws are starting to open up. So yeah, let's start off by talking about that. Let's talk about the deer numbers.
Yeah, our numbers, We started off good. Last year, our numbers were great, and we had a lot of a very successful deer harvest. We had a mild winter to start with. We got a lot of snow in February last year. This year, we were mild all season and never really got super cold or super snowy. I don't think we got more than 8 inches so far this winter of snow.
Really?
So we're down on that, and we're very, very dry. We're in our third year of a drought, which is probably a big part of the factor of what is happening to our deer herd. So the biologist sent me out the numbers a couple of weeks ago for Guthrie County specifically. I'll use because we are a very heavily populated deer county. In the last 5 years, we average about 1,300 does killed in this county alone.
Okay.
And so, and that includes landowner tags, every tag available. We kill about 1,300 does. This year, our number was about 700.
Oh, wow.
So our harvest rate dropped almost in half in the county.
And that's all you think that's a large part of the drought for the past few years? Because when I was out there, it was really mild. It wasn't brutal. It wasn't cold. Is that the biggest factor you think?
I think, yeah. And the drought, yes, it has to do with, which is when we get into my deer story, is how I killed my biggest deer this year. But the drought also increases what the biologists tell us is EHD. And we're familiar with that all across the country. We see it in Iowa recently, since about 2010, started seeing more cases of EHD. And I would say in Guthrie County in 2012, we lost hundreds, if not thousands of deer due to EHD.
Yeah.
And I had one stretch of the river that locally that had 42 deer dead in it in a mile stretch. And we've been lucky since then to not really have issues of EHD. And supposedly with the drought, that is more common. Those bugs, those midge bugs, propagate more and more likely for those deer to I guess, get EHD. And I didn't have any EHD issues until about the end of August. And then my phone from end of August through September, October, and early November blew up with dead deer. And so I lost deer all over the place from EHD. It's hard to put your finger on a pulse and say exactly how many. It's always localized. So you'll have areas that just wipes out an area, and then you go 3 miles and nothing's happening. But we lost a lot of deer. And I think that's a large part of the problem why we didn't see that harvest where we'd like to see it at.
How was the buck harvest? Because I know, when people think Iowa, they think, large cornfields, and they think these monster bucks run around everywhere. But EHD plays a big role in trophy deer. Like I don't know why it's sometimes it seems to hit them harder. Are you noticing the same thing?
Yeah, and they ingest that bug just by grazing on grasses and forage and stuff. So the bigger the deer, the more they eat, the more likely they are to ingest this. So that's your science behind it. But yeah, without a doubt, we saw a lot more deer this year that died from it. And we're told that over time that this is going to be something they develop an immunity to, but it might take 20, 25 years, a natural immunity to. So we'll take a beating for a while. Our deer herd is down here. If we got snow, we would be able to do our aerial surveys and kind of get another idea into March. We always do a spotlight survey. It'll give us an idea where we are with that too. But overall, we're going to be down quite a bit.
Yeah.
For next year.
How does that play a role in hunter numbers for you guys? I mean, do you see as the deer population starts to dip a little bit, do you notice more or less draws?
Well, in a way. So as of COVID year, which we'll call 2020 the COVID year, we had record number of deer license sales, turkey sales, all that stuff, because people were home and they had that free time to do this stuff. And that's kind of carried over. We've kept those higher license sales. So we're still seeing those sales and they're still not record numbers like they were 2 years ago, but they're higher than the 10-year average. And you asked about the buck harvest. What has it done? Even though our doe harvest was almost cut in half, our buck harvest was up 19%.
No kidding.
So now people are going, hey, instead of shooting that doe, I'm not finding that doe. I'm going to harvest a buck. And it might just be a 1.5 year or 2.5-year-old buck. So our buck harvest was up, not because we got more bucks, just because they had less does to shoot.
That's fun. Well, I've noticed that because I follow Trophy Bucks of Iowa. I think that's a Facebook page. And they'll always post. And I noticed, and abnormal amount of 1 and 2 year old deer this year that were posted on there. And I was wondering what was up with that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think that's the reason behind it.
Man, that's interesting. All right. So talk to me about your hunting season. How'd it go?
Well, I was fortunate enough to harvest a doe with my bow and then a buck as well. And just like everybody, I'm tickled pink. Any deer with a bow is a trophy in my mind. And there's people, especially when they come to Iowa, I want 150, 160 inch. Yeah, we all do. Yeah. I live here. I drive around this county all the time. I grew up here. Man, they aren't everywhere, and they aren't behind every tree like some people think they are, like they show on TV. You know, you've hunted here.
No. Oh, no, it's tough.
Yeah, you're going to earn it still. You got to find them, then you got to kill them, which is the hard part. But my archery season was actually, I don't get a whole lot of time to do it because I'm usually working. So I picked a Tuesday, I believe it was, or maybe it was a Monday. Had decent wind for a stand I hadn't hunted all year. Got out there, sat down, and I had one spike walk by me and a little tiny 1.5-year-old. And I sat in a tree and doodled on my phone and stared at the birds flying overhead and thinking, this is the worst day ever. It's first week in November. There should be deer running all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
And it was dead. And at the same time, I had a friend of mine hunting in my backyard in my tree stand in my backyard, literally. And he texted me and said, I'm not seeing anything. I told him, I said, I'm going to stick it out to 9:45. Then I'm done. And he said, same thing. So 9:45, I grab the antlers, I beat them together. I hear something, set them down. I look up and here comes a buck that I end up shooting, comes walking through the timber, ears laid back, bristled up, looking for the fight.
Yeah.
And gets about 50 yards away, turns and walks straight towards me. I'm sitting on a field edge with a bean field. And he walks up to 8 yards from me. And I never had a shot coming at me. And at 8 yards, you know, you're good because he's going to give you a shot at some point. And so I have my bow in my hand ready. And at about 8 yards, he's staring into the field looking for that fight. And I have never personally, and maybe you have, I have never personally witnessed this, but he hit a snort wheeze on me.
I've never heard it. I
about fell out of tree stand. I literally, oh my God, I should have worn my diaper that day. It was something that was so loud. And I've always seen people talk about it. And I've seen some YouTubes on it, but boy, he hit that snort wheeze. And at that point I was like, you're going home with me. So there's no doubt I'm shooting this deer. I don't care if there's five bigger than this deer. So he ended up looking around and then turning, give me a 12-yard shot. And he went 40 yards and fell over. So, and he was pretty cool one. He had really giant brow tines on one side, I think 14 inches at split. And it was a unique deer. So I was tickled pink with him. And again, any deer with a bow is it's a trophy. So I was done with that. And that was done until then late muzzleloader season, which you've hunted. And you're so subjective to weather on that. You're at the mercy of Mother Nature.
Yeah. There's still, I'm telling you, that's still one of the best hunts I've ever been on. Like I saw more deer, just as many deer as I would see in Oklahoma, but the quality seemed to be better. And I think that's a lot of it is due to food sources. Cause I mean, there's corn everywhere and there's food for them to eat and, just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I would highly recommend that hunt.
It's a terrific hunt. You know, everybody dreams of the archery and the rut, which is something everybody needs to experience in your life at least once. But the late muzzleloader is a good option. And it's in my opinion, it's the second best hunt in Iowa. Again, if you can get the weather for it.
Right.
But it's always, who knows? It's a roll of dice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's how it is with any hunt, man. Any hunt is a roll of the dice with me. So the friend that was in the backyard, that wasn't our good buddy, Thomas Allen, was it?
It wasn't. It was one of my local deputies. And here's the great part. I forgot that I brought him into that conversation. I sent him a text and said, hey, I just shot one. I'm not coming be for just a bit. And he goes, okay, I just shot one too.
How do you, in your backyard?
In my backyard, 160-inch deer that I had pictures of.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden at 9:45, 10 o'clock in the morning, after neither of us saw really, I saw two deer. He didn't see a deer. The woods opened up and he said, well, I hit mine. I didn't see him go down. I'll come get you. We'll load up your deer, and then we'll go look for mine.
Right.
So from the 30 minutes it took him to drive from where he was to where I was hunting, I had 8 more bucks run by my tree stand. And it was all of a sudden the deer woods opened up and there were deer running everywhere.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of how those midday hunts end up going, because most guys are getting out of the stand 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30. And they never see, they just think it's a slow day and they don't realize that, hey, hang on till, man, I would, that time of the year in Iowa, you'd have a hard time pulling me out of the stand. And even in Oklahoma, November, like you're probably not going to get me out of the stand all day. Like I'll sit there all day.
And that's a good lesson. And that's exactly it. I've only ever sat my life one day all day long. And I say that because normally I find an excuse to crawl out because I got a work call. I got to go.
Yeah.
I just can't take it anymore. But it's, you nailed it. It's so true that 10 to 2 time is such, just like a turkey, is a great time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
People are gone. So,
yeah. Before we get out of here, what are a few things that you wish people that you encounter knew about game wardens or knew about game laws that would better help your interaction with hunters and fishermen?
That's a great question.
This one wasn't on our list of things to talk about, but I was just sitting here thinking, like, how can we better help our game officers and our game wardens better fulfill their job and make their lives easier?
Yeah. And I tell you what, I try to be as least intrusive and as least amount of a pain as I can possibly be. All I want to see typically is make sure you got your hunting license and your tags if needed, or that you're doing stuff legal. I might have to look at a bow or a gun to make sure it's the right caliber. Really, I don't want to interrupt you. Since I'm an outdoorsman, I know how valuable that time is and how much you cherish being out there. And the last thing I want to do is shorten that time, especially if you got somebody or a kid along. Man, I'd rather take a picture of you, giving a high five to your buddy with your animal that you just harvested, and be on my way. Worst part of my job is writing tickets. So I would just ask people, hey, understand that, know where your license is, carry it with you as required in Iowa. Not all states do. And with Iowa, you got a paper option, you have the digital option. We have an app that you can carry it every different way.
Yeah.
So just make sure you know where that stuff is and that you can provide that pretty quickly. Nothing worse than people having their wallet scattered across the tailgate going, I know it's in here somewhere, and wind's blowing it all over and I'm picking it up like I'm on an adult Easter egg hunt.
Yeah.
So
I have a question. So let's say, before they leave the house, because this is what I do a lot of times, just so I always have with me. And I try to make contact with the game warden. If I'm hunting a certain area, like, hey, I'm going to be out here. If you ever need help or anything like that, because you guys get flat tires too. And stuff happens. It's always nice to have a contact out in the field, but I'll take a picture of all my licenses and I save them just so if a freak thing happens and I grab the McDonald's bag and my license has to be on it, and I pull the old Home Alone and Kevin McAllister's and it goes in the trash. Does that help you guys? I mean, is that okay if something freak like that happens and we only have a photo on our phone?
I mean, life happens, right?
Yeah.
I get it. And I can sympathize with that and stuff like that. It's awesome. And not that you need to prove your innocence, but it makes our interaction quicker and better.
Yeah.
I can look at that and go, man, this person squared away. It was an accident. Happens to all of us. I've messed up before. And that's where I pride myself. I don't write people tickets. Everybody that breaks the law. I write tickets to people who intentionally break the law.
Yeah.
If it's an accident, it can happen to me. So I try to keep that in mind. And that was a bit of advice I got from the game warden prior to me, and probably some of the best advice I ever got about doing my job.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, we're definitely going to have you on because turkey season's coming up, and I know you will be in the turkey woods and you're going to have a great story for us. Are you going to allow Thomas Allen to come out and turkey hunt this year?
I mean, if I could find a way to stop him, we might have to. I don't know. I haven't talked to him about that lately. I know I'm going to be going up there to hunt with him.
Well, good.
So,
just make sure he doesn't go south.
Yeah, I know.
You can go up to Minnesota, but don't let him come to Iowa.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, he's killed enough Iowa turkeys.
Yeah. Oh, Gobby Knob is not where he needs to be.
Yep, that's true.
All right, Jeremy, thanks for joining us, man. And Gun Talk Hunt fans, you know the drill, man. Always be safe out there. Keep those muzzles pointed in the right direction and always be on the hunt.